This video contains audio description. The content is presented by Yetnebash Nugusi Mola, UNICEF Disability Specialist. Photographs of children with disabilities from around the world. Disability Inclusion Training. Module 6, A Person-Centered Approach.
Every person has the right to make decisions about their own lives, including how they access a service you're providing. There are lots of ways in which you can make your services disability inclusive, but the first thing to do is to ask each and every person with a disability about what they require and what would help them. Every person with a disability has a right to make decisions about their lives, but it's not just their right. There are very practical reasons why you need to ask. For example, two people might have the same type of disability, but very different access or participation requirements.
Marcelina, 23, from Samoa, speaks in Samoan Sign Language.
With hearing people who do not understand sign language, if I didn't have an interpreter, I would use lip reading and gestures to communicate.
Joanna Chio, from the Philippines.
I noticed that most people, whenever we meet and then they find out that I'm deaf, they immediately think or ask me if I knew sign language, which I don't. And also, especially during this time of pandemic, people are wear masks and sometimes it's very difficult for me to hear. So it would be really helpful if people spoke slowly or at least speak properly.
Some persons with disabilities might require additional support, even if you think you've removed all the barriers to their inclusion.
Maria, 21, from Bulgaria.
When I was younger, I was less self-confident than I am now. I definitely felt the need to be pushed. And I don't mean a literal push. I just mean the idea of, it's okay for you to speak up.
There is no one-size-fits-all approach for disability. You have to ask each person with a disability what they need or prefer to be able to participate. It's a person-centered approach, and a key part of it is to make what are called reasonable accommodations. Reasonable accommodation is about each individual's unique situation and is about working with them to identify solutions. Reasonable accommodation is the extra personal changes which allow someone with a disability to fully participate, whether it's in a place like a classroom or a hospital, or in a service that's being given like food distribution. This change should not cost a lot. That's why they are called reasonable.
Mark, 24, from Uganda, speaks in Ugandan Sign Language.
One time at the bank, I was with a guide and we came across a guard. We were communicating through written script, writing back and forth to one another. And later, he helped me access the main hall inside the bank. And when I went inside, the bank staff prioritized me and served me first.
You really have to talk to each individual person to figure out what reasonable accommodation they might require.
Elena Mustaka, Managing Director, Better Days.
Ali was a 17-year-old boy from Iran, and during his journey to Greece, he lost his brother, and that made him suffer from severe anxiety. He couldn't be in a classroom full of students. Thus, we had a conversation with him and his social worker and asked him if he would be willing to attend classes if we would facilitate for a quiet place on a one-on-one basis and so forth. And he got very excited about that. And slowly but steadily, he felt comfortable being part of a smaller group.
When providing reasonable accommodations and when working with someone with a disability, it's always important to talk to persons with disabilities in respectful and inclusive ways. Don't just assume that all deaf people use sign language or that if someone is blind, they read Braille. Each person has their own way of communicating, and you should ask them to find out what it is.
Kartik, 19, from India.
When I was in grade 10, one of my teachers did not quite know how I worked, and I told him about my disability and the assistive technology that I use in the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, he tells me that I got a 0 out of a 10 in my class participation. And I was actually shocked. When I asked him the reason, he was like, well, you don't listen to what I say in the classroom. You always have your earphones on, and you listen to music. And that is when I again explained him what screen reader actually meant. And actually demonstrating that, yes, I could actually type even without vision.
Unfortunately, negative attitudes towards persons with disabilities are quite common and sometimes show up in the ways people talk. The words you choose are important, so make sure not to use negative ones. If you need to refer to someone's disability and you're not sure how, just ask them. You might make mistakes. That's okay. We all do. If you say the wrong thing, just apologize and correct yourself. One thing we don't say anymore, although you might still hear it in your community, is special needs. If you're talking about children with disabilities, say children with disabilities, not children with special needs.
When it comes to wheelchair bound, I don't particularly like that because the wheelchair is not something I'm ashamed of. The wheelchair is simply a tool that allows me to interact with the world.
If somebody calls me by my name, that is very respectful. It dignifies me, so I would always prefer someone to call me by my name, and that way we can start to be friends.
When communicating with deaf persons, even if they have an interpreter with them, always speak to the person directly, not to the interpreter. If a deaf person does not have an interpreter with them and are relying on gestures to communicate, please be patient and remember that we often communicate without interpreters. We know how to get the information across, even if we have to use our phone to try to do so.
There are a lot of simple things you can do today to include persons with disabilities, even in places where there are fewer resources.
John Miguel Okech, CARE, Bangladesh.
We had consultative meetings with persons with disability in terms of access to water, access to sanitation facilities. Other persons with disability were not able to self-express themselves, so we also included their caregivers. We got the feedback that they felt their needs were not being addressed, and that helped to improve the design of a latrine with certain add-ons.
Joy Wadimo, teacher, Uganda.
The low vision and the blind children. We use audio, then we also use tactile materials whereby children can touch and feel so that they understand. Then we also have other teachers who know sign language.
Going forward, the best thing to do is to meet with persons with disabilities and see what ideas you can come up with together. Reach out to organizations of persons with disabilities in your community. Ask them what kinds of changes you could make to your service, and then keep checking in with them to make sure those changes are working. Find out what support services are available in your community and what resources you have available to make changes in your workplace. Talk to each person with a disability you work with about reasonable accommodations they might require and provide these wherever it's possible. Every little bit matters. If you're showing a video, can you prepare captions? If you're distributing food in an emergency response, can you serve persons with disabilities first? Are you communicating with persons with disabilities in ways that make them feel respected and empowered? As someone who works on the front lines, you are in a unique position to make a difference in the lives of many people. You teach our children, you staff our hospitals, you give people access to water. You can make sure all of these things are more open to persons with disabilities. I hope that what you've learned here makes you more excited to work with persons with disabilities and to share what you've learned with those around you.
UNICEF, for every child, with technical support from CBM Global Disability Inclusion, with thanks to NORAD, Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation. Video production by Highway Child.